The day had begun like any other for Aaron. The morning sun spilled through his window, painting gold streaks across the wooden floor, but his thoughts were restless. He had been waiting for this day longer than he dared admit. When the invitation arrived handwritten, sealed with crimson wax, he almost thought it was a mistake. But it was not. The words were clear: "Meet me at the field, just beyond the orchard. A surprise awaits. Don't be late." It was signed by Myra. Myra was no ordinary woman. She was known in town for her elegance, her untamed confidence, and her laughter that seemed to catch fire in the hearts of everyone who heard it. Yet, it wasn't just her beauty that made her unforgettable, it was the way her eyes lingered a second longer than they should, the way her voice could turn even the simplest phrase into something daring, something filled with promise. Aaron arrived at the field just as the sky was brushed with the first blush of dawn. And there it stood, a massive hot air balloon, its colors rich and alive, striped in crimson and gold. The basket swayed gently in the morning breeze, ropes taut, the burner gleaming. Beside it, Myra waited. She wore a flowing dress the color of twilight, one that clung in places it shouldn't have and fluttered in places it should. A scarf, deep blue, was tied loosely around her neck, and her hair tumbled freely with the wind. "You came," she said, smiling as if she had doubted him. Her voice was soft but edged with mischief. "How could I not?" Aaron replied, trying to steady his breath. He glanced at the balloon. "This is the surprise." Her smile deepened. "It's only the beginning." The pilot greeted them, bowing politely before stepping aside to prepare the balloon for ascent. But Myra stopped him with a wave of her hand. "Leave it to me. I want this moment to be ours alone." The man hesitated, then nodded, moving away. "Alone." Aaron felt his heart quicken. Myra gestured for him to climb into the basket. He did, and she followed, her dress brushing against his arm as she leaned in. The scent of her perfume drifted to him, warm, sweet, and intoxicating. The burner roared to life, flames licking upward, and slowly, the balloon began to rise. The ground slipped away, the orchard shrinking beneath them until it looked like a painting. The wind grew cooler, and the silence of the sky surrounded them. Aaron gripped the edge of the basket. "I've never done this before." "Then I'll make sure you never forget it," Myra whispered, standing close enough that her words brushed his ear. She didn't move away. Instead, she rested her hand lightly on his arm, as if steadying him, though he wasn't sure who truly needed steadying him, or her game of temptation. The higher they drifted, the more the world below vanished, until it felt as if they were suspended in a dream. Clouds stretched like white seas, and the sun cast soft golden light over everything. Myra leaned against the basket, her gaze fixed on him rather than the horizon. "Do you know why I brought you here?" she asked. Aaron shook his head. "To scare me, maybe." Her laughter rang out, rich and playful. "No. To free you. Up here, no one watches. No one judges. It's just us, and the sky." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Her eyes glowed, reflecting both sunlight and something else, something dangerous, something intimate. She stepped closer, her shoulder brushing his. "Tell me, Aaron," she murmured, "what do you desire most, now that we're far above the world?" He swallowed hard. The question was a trap, yet also an invitation. He met her gaze, unable to look away. "I don't think the sky is what I came here for." Her lips curved into a slow smile. "Good answer." For a heartbeat, silence filled the space between them, thick, heated, expectant. The balloon drifted higher, cradling them in solitude, while the wind carried away all excuses. Myra's hand slid from his arm to his wrist, light as silk, deliberate in its slowness. She looked at him, daring him to move, daring him to resist. And Aaron realized, the true surprise was not the balloon, nor the flight, it was her. And whatever she intended for him among the clouds had only just begun. The balloon climbed steadily, the roar of the burner now just a rhythm that seemed to pulse with the beating of Aaron's heart. The ground below had faded into a patchwork of colors, the orchards and roads now little more than strokes on a canvas. The horizon stretched endlessly, bathed in soft hues of gold and pink. Yet, for Aaron, none of it mattered. His attention was fixed on Myra. She leaned against the edge of the basket, one hand brushing the ropes casually, as though she were born to be in the sky. Her scarf danced with the wind, fluttering across her shoulder before catching against his chest. She didn't move to pull it away. Instead, she tilted her head and studied him with a gaze that was equal parts curiosity and fire. "You're still nervous," she said softly. "I can see it in your hands." Aaron realized he was gripping the wicker rim too tightly. He let go, forcing a chuckle. "Maybe I'm just not used to being this far from the ground." "Or maybe," Myra countered, stepping closer, "you're not used to being this close to me." Her words hit harder than the height ever could. She was near enough now that the warmth of her body fought against the cool wind. The space inside the basket was small, but it felt smaller still as she let her fingers trail along the rope, then deliberately let them brush against his hand. Aaron caught his breath. "You enjoy making me uneasy." "Uneasy?" Myra's lips curved into a knowing smile. "No. I enjoy making you aware." The balloon swayed gently, the silence of the sky wrapping around them. Myra stepped so close their shoulders touched. The contact was slight, almost innocent, yet it carried a weight that made Aaron's chest tighten. She turned her face toward him, her voice dropping lower. "Up here, there's no one to interrupt us. No one to tell us what we should or shouldn't do." Her eyes locked with his. "Doesn't that excite you?" Aaron's throat felt dry. "Yes," he admitted, almost against his will. Myra's smile deepened, satisfied. She reached up, adjusting the scarf around her neck, though Aaron suspected it was less about comfort and more about drawing his gaze. Her fingers lingered at the edge of her collarbone, tracing lightly before dropping away. The air felt charged, thicker than the wind could explain. Aaron's heart hammered as Myra leaned against the basket rail, her body angled toward him. "Do you know why I chose a balloon?" she asked. He shook his head. "Because it feels like flying. Like surrendering control. You can't steer it, you can't stop it, you just rise higher and higher, until you're forced to trust the air to carry you." Her voice softened. "And sometimes, trust is the most seductive thing of all." Aaron tried to hold her gaze, but the weight of her words pulled him deeper. He realized then that this wasn't just a game for her. This was a deliberate dance, each move measured, each glance calculated, each word meant to unravel him. He found his voice. "And what if I don't want to surrender?" Myra's eyes gleamed. She pushed away from the railing and closed the small gap between them. Her hand brushed his chest, just lightly enough to test his resolve. "Then I'll just have to convince you." The touch was brief, but it left a trail of heat beneath his shirt. Aaron's breath caught, and Myra's smile told him she had noticed. The balloon drifted higher still, breaking through a thin veil of clouds. For a moment, they were surrounded by mist, wrapped in white silence, as if the world itself had disappeared. When they emerged above it, the sight was breathtaking, an endless ocean of clouds beneath them, the sun blazing overhead. Myra spread her arms wide, laughing softly. "See? The world can't touch us here." She turned back to him, her laughter fading into something softer, more intimate. "Only we can touch each other." Her hand slid back to his arm, slower this time, lingering. Aaron didn't move away. His pulse raced, and though the sky stretched infinite around them, it felt as if the basket was shrinking with every heartbeat. He tried to steady his voice. "You're dangerous." Myra leaned in, close enough that her breath warmed his ear. "Then why do you look at me as though you want the danger?" The balloon rocked gently, carrying them higher still, as the line between fear and desire blurred into one. And above the clouds, Aaron realized, the seduction had only just begun, and he was already losing ground. The balloon had settled into a steady drift, gliding through the currents with a calmness that was almost deceptive. But inside the basket, calm was the last thing Aaron felt. Every second beside Myra was like standing too close to a flame drawn by its warmth, yet certain he would be burned. Myra leaned back against the wicker wall, one hand lazily coiled around the rope. The wind tangled her hair across her cheek, but she made no move to fix it. Instead, she watched Aaron with a gaze that studied, measured, and teased all at once. "You're too tense," she said, tilting her head. "Your shoulders give you away." Aaron tried to laugh it off, rolling his shoulders as if to loosen them. "Maybe I'm just worried this basket is too small for both of us." Her lips curved slowly. "Oh, I like small spaces. They force closeness." The words dripped with suggestion, and Aaron felt his chest tighten again. She knew exactly what she was doing, each sentence a carefully laid step in the game she was playing. Myra pushed away from the edge and moved closer, her dress brushing against him as she shifted. The space inside the basket shrank even more, her presence filling every corner of it. She tilted her chin up, her eyes locking with his. "Tell me, Aaron," she murmured, "what's harder right now, ignoring the height beneath us, or ignoring me?" He swallowed, caught off guard. "You don't fight fair." "Seduction is never fair," she whispered, her fingers brushing lightly against his sleeve. The touch lingered, deliberate, before sliding lower to rest against his wrist. The warmth of her hand spread through him, sharp and undeniable. Aaron tried to steady his breathing, but Myra leaned in, her lips close enough that he could feel the faint brush of her breath. "Do you want me to stop?" she asked softly, though her eyes told him she already knew the answer. Aaron hesitated, his heart thundering in his chest. He should have said yes. He should have pulled away. But the word caught in his throat, refused to come. Myra's smile deepened at his silence. "That's what I thought." The balloon swayed gently, the ropes creaking, the burner's flame flickering like a heartbeat. Around them stretched endless sky, yet Aaron felt trapped in the best and worst way by the intensity of her presence. She shifted again, this time standing between him and the basket's edge. Her hand slid up, pressing flat against his chest. "You're trembling," she whispered, almost in delight. "But is it fear, or anticipation?" Aaron forced himself to meet her gaze. "Maybe both." Her laughter was soft, husky. "Then let me take away the fear. All that should remain, is the anticipation." Her fingers curled lightly against his shirt, and for a moment, it felt as if she could feel his racing heartbeat through the fabric. Aaron's breath grew shallow. The world below was gone, swallowed by clouds, but the danger of falling had nothing to do with the ground. It was her closeness, her relentless push into his resolve. Myra's voice dropped even lower, each word laced with intent. You see, Aaron, up here, everything is stripped away. No rules. No eyes watching. Just honesty. And honesty tells me you want this as much as I do. Aaron closed his eyes briefly, trying to steady himself. When he opened them, Myra's face was inches from his own, her eyes bright, daring him to deny it. Say it, she whispered. Say you want me. The demand was bold, reckless, yet it fit the sky they were floating in, boundless and untamed. Aaron's lips parted, but the words stuck, tangled in his throat. His silence was all the answer Myra needed. She leaned closer, her nose brushing his cheek, her voice a soft murmur. I'll take silence as surrender. The balloon rocked slightly with the wind, and Myra finally pulled back, not to end the moment, but to prolong it. Her eyes glittered with triumph, and her smile was that of someone who had just claimed victory in a game only she truly understood. Aaron's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He hadn't spoken the words she asked for, but he knew, and she knew, that his silence had betrayed him. Above the clouds, in a basket far from the world below, the game of seduction had shifted. It was no longer a question of if only when. The sky stretched endlessly around them, a vast canvas of gold and soft violet. The balloon floated steadily, the world below hidden beneath a blanket of clouds. Yet for Aaron, it wasn't the height or the view that made his heart race, it was Myra, standing impossibly close, radiating warmth that seemed almost unnatural at this altitude. She shifted closer, letting her shoulder brush against his. The contact was light, almost accidental, but the effect was electric. Aaron swallowed hard, feeling a tension coil in his chest that refused to unwind. You're trembling, Myra murmured, her breath barely brushing his ear. I can feel it through the fabric of your shirt. Aaron tried to step back, but the basket was too small, the movement almost impossible. Instead, he could only inhale sharply, acutely aware of every inch of her that was now pressing near him. Stop teasing me, he said, though his voice was rough, betraying how far from commanding he truly felt. I'm not teasing, Myra whispered, her hand sliding down to lightly rest against his forearm. The touch lingered longer than necessary, deliberate and provocative. I'm giving you a choice. Surrender, or suffer the suspense. The basket swayed gently with the wind, and Myra pressed a little closer, her body brushing against his side. The heat between them was undeniable, mingling with the crisp air around them. Aaron's pulse raced uncontrollably. It wasn't fear, though the height made him aware of vulnerability, it was desire. Myra leaned in, her lips almost brushing his jawline. Do you know what's exciting about this? She asked, her voice low and teasing. Up here, above everything, there's no way to escape. No ground to steady yourself. You're suspended, just like you're restrained. Aaron's fingers twitched involuntarily. He wanted to touch her, to pull her closer, yet every instinct warned him to hold back. The tension was unbearable, a taut wire strung between them, vibrating with every heartbeat. Her hand slid from his arm to his shoulder, brushing lightly, deliberately, before resting there. She tilted her head, her lips near enough to graze his ear. I could kiss you right now, she whispered. And there'd be nothing you could do about it? Aaron's breath caught. You wouldn't, he managed, though his words were weak. Oh, I would, she said with a teasing laugh. But only if you want me to. Her fingers traced slow patterns along the fabric of his shirt, just enough to make him shiver. He could feel her warmth, smell the faint sweetness of her perfume mixed with the crispness of the wind. The closeness was dizzying, overwhelming, like standing at the edge of something dangerous yet irresistible. Myra leaned back slightly, just enough to give him a choice, but her gaze held him captive. "Do you want me to stop?" she asked softly, her hand still resting lightly on his chest. Aaron's chest heaved. His thoughts were a tangle of want and hesitation. "No," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Don't stop." The smile that curved her lips was triumphant, slow, and knowing. She stepped even closer, reducing the distance to almost nothing. Her fingers slid lightly over his arm again, testing, teasing, drawing heat with every movement. "You see," Myra murmured, her breath warm against his skin, "the higher we go, the less control we have. But sometimes, losing control is the best part." The balloon shifted gently, but inside the basket, the tension had nothing to do with wind or motion. Aaron could barely think, his body alive with anticipation. Every brush of her hand, every teasing word, made the air between them crackle. She leaned in, her lips dangerously close to his, the scent of her hair mingling with the wind. "You're mine up here," she whispered, her voice a soft, heated promise. "And there's nowhere to hide." For a long moment, they simply hovered, breath mingling, eyes locked, suspended between desire and hesitation. The balloon floated high above the clouds, carrying them farther from the world, yet closer to a truth neither could deny: the game had shifted. Myra's hand lingered on his chest, pressing just enough to remind him of her presence. Aaron felt his resistance melting, his anticipation mingling with the thrill of the altitude, the closeness, the unspoken promise that this ride was far from over. And as the wind whispered around them, Aaron realized, surrendering might be terrifying, but it had never felt more intoxicating. The balloon floated above a sea of clouds, the sun spilling gold across their faces. Yet the world below seemed irrelevant to Aaron. All that mattered was Myra, her presence, her teasing, the subtle weight of her body pressing near his. Her hand remained lightly against his chest, moving slowly, deliberately, teasing him with a touch that burned. Aaron's breath was uneven, his pulse racing as he tried to keep control, tried to hold on to reason. But every glance, every word, every brush of her fingers chipped away at his restraint. "You've been holding back," Myra murmured, her lips close to his ear. "I can feel it. And I know you're craving more than just the view." Aaron's throat tightened. The truth of her words hit him harder than he expected. He had tried to convince himself he was cautious, that he had control, but with her, control felt like a fragile illusion. "You're impossible," he whispered, though the words carried none of anger. They were lost in the heat of anticipation. Myra's laugh was soft, sultry, curling against him like a ribbon of warmth. She stepped closer, pressing fully against him, letting the faint curve of her body brush along his side. "Am I?" she teased, her hand tracing a slow, deliberate path from his shoulder down to his wrist. "Or are you just finally realizing you want it too?" Aaron's fingers twitched, itching to reach for her, but she stopped him with a gentle, teasing grip. "Not yet," she whispered. "Patience. I want you to feel every second before it happens." The balloon swayed slightly, and Myra leaned in even closer. Her lips brushed the edge of his jaw, barely, teasingly, sending shivers through him. The warmth of her body, the softness of her touch, and the daring closeness made it impossible to think clearly. He was trapped, enticed by every inch she offered and challenged by the restraint she demanded. "I can't keep holding back," he admitted, his voice rough, strained with desire. Myra's eyes sparkled with triumph. "Then don't," she whispered, letting go of his wrist and allowing her hand to settle more firmly on his chest, her fingers pressing lightly, daring him to act. The tension snapped. Aaron reached instinctively, catching her waist, drawing her closer. The basket offered no escape, no room to hide, only the dizzying closeness and the thrill of surrender. Myra leaned into him, her lips brushing his in the briefest, teasing kiss that sent fire through him. Her laughter, soft and breathless, escaped as she pulled slightly back. "That's it, just a taste," she murmured. "I want to see how far you'll go." Aaron's hands were no longer hesitant. They traced along her back, feeling the curve of her waist beneath the soft fabric of her dress. The wind tugged at their hair, mingling with the heat between them, until it felt as if the balloon was carrying them into a world where nothing else existed. Myra pressed against him fully now, her lips brushing his again, slower this time, more insistent. The teasing had evolved into something urgent, something demanding attention. Every movement was charged with intent, every glance daring him to act further. "Do you feel it?" she whispered, her breath warm against his lips. "The sky, the air, the moment. It's all ours." Aaron could barely speak. His mind was clouded with heat and anticipation. He only knew that he couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. The world below could wait, up here, they were suspended in a moment of fire, temptation, and surrender. Myra's hand slid up, fingers threading through his hair, pulling him closer for a kiss that lingered just at the edge of desire. The basket swayed gently, and the world seemed to tilt as their bodies pressed together, caught between the thrill of the sky and the irresistible pull of each other. For the first time, Aaron understood the full power of Myra's game. She had led him here, teased him, tested him, and now, with every heartbeat, every brush of her touch, she was claiming him entirely, above the clouds, where nothing could interfere. The balloon floated higher, carrying them farther from everything they knew, and yet closer than ever. Suspended in the sky, the boundaries between teasing and surrender had blurred, leaving only one truth: up here, together, nothing else mattered except the fire they ignited in each other. The basket swayed gently, rocking with the rhythm of the breeze. The world below had vanished, hidden beneath a quilt of drifting clouds, leaving only the endless sky around them. Aaron could hear his own pulse, thundering in his chest, but it was drowned out by the softness of Myra's laughter as she pressed close against him. Her lips lingered at his jaw, teasing, tasting, each brush a spark that set fire through him. She didn't rush, she never rushed. Instead, she savored, drawing out every moment, every reaction. Aaron could feel the deliberate pace of her game, and it only pulled him deeper. "You feel it too, don't you?" Myra whispered, her voice low, husky. "The way the air thins, the way our hearts race harder to keep up. It's like the sky itself wants us to burn." Aaron's hands tightened around her waist, pulling her closer. "You're relentless." Her smile curved against his skin. "Only with you." She tilted her face back to look at him, her eyes glimmering in the fading light. There was mischief there, yes, but also something else, something softer, buried beneath the fire. Her fingers traced slow patterns against his chest, dragging heat with every pass. Aaron leaned down, their lips meeting again, this time less hesitant, more certain. The kiss deepened quickly, an unspoken surrender that neither of them tried to deny anymore. Myra's hand slid to the back of his neck, holding him there, her body pressing fully against his as the balloon rocked gently beneath their weight. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless, their foreheads pressed together, their laughter tangled with gasps. "See what happens when you let go," Myra whispered. "You stop trembling." Aaron chuckled weakly, though his voice was rough. "I'm trembling on the inside." "Good," she said with a smirk. "That means I haven't finished yet." Her hand slipped lower, resting at his sides, fingertips grazing dangerously close to where the fabric of his shirt ended. The touch was feather-light, yet enough to send a shiver racing down his spine. Aaron caught her wrists gently, holding them there, his breath uneven. "Myra," his voice carried a warning, but also a plea. "Yes," she teased, eyes sparkling. "You're going to undo me." She leaned in, her lips brushing his ear, her whisper hotter than the flame roaring above. "That's the idea." The balloon rocked slightly, the ropes creaking, the sky around them glowing orange with the sinking sun. Myra's scarf slipped loose, caught briefly by the wind before fluttering down into the basket. She didn't move to fix it, instead, she smiled as though the loss of the scarf was symbolic, one layer gone, one barrier dropped. Aaron's resolve cracked further. His hand slid around her, pulling her firmly against him. Myra responded instantly, tilting her head up to claim his lips again in a kiss that was fierce, hungry. The heat between them burned away hesitation, leaving only the raw, undeniable truth: they wanted this. Time blurred. The sky spun around them, the balloon swayed gently, and all Aaron could feel was Myra, her warmth, her laughter, the intoxicating way she touched him with both fire and tenderness. Every brush of her lips, every sigh against his mouth, every deliberate press of her body was a promise, pulling him farther into her orbit. When they broke apart once more, Myra's eyes softened. For the first time, the mischief gave way to something deeper, something vulnerable. She cupped his face gently, her thumb brushing his cheek. "I've wanted this longer than I'll admit," she confessed, voice quiet, almost lost to the wind. Aaron's chest tightened. He had expected only a game, only playful seduction. But there it was, truth, slipped into the fire. "Myra, don't say it," she whispered quickly, though her smile trembled. "Just stay here with me. Just for now. Above the world, where it's only us." Aaron kissed her again, softer this time, slower, as though sealing a vow. The sky deepened around them, the sun slipping lower, painting their world in gold and crimson. Suspended between heaven and earth, they were no longer playing a game, they were surrendering to something far greater, something neither of them had expected when the balloon first rose into the sky. And as Myra clung to him, as their breaths mingled in the cool air, Aaron realized that the height no longer frightened him. What terrified him now, was how deeply he was falling for her. The sun had begun its slow descent, painting the sky with streaks of amber and rose. The balloon floated gently, swaying above a sea of clouds that glowed in the evening light. The world below was hidden, distant, and meaningless. Up here, in the basket with Myra, time seemed to stretch and bend, leaving only the two of them suspended in the quiet thrill of the sky. Myra leaned against him, her body warm and soft, her hair brushing his cheek as the wind tugged playfully at her scarf. Her hand rested over his heart, feeling the rapid thump of his pulse. "You're racing," she murmured, her lips brushing his ear. "Do you know why?" Aaron swallowed, words failing him. He could feel the truth in her touch, in the way her eyes held his, in the subtle pressure of her body against his. "Because, you're here," he admitted, voice low, rough with desire. Because it's impossible to resist. Myra's lips curved into a victorious, sultry smile. Good, she whispered. I want you to feel it. Every heartbeat. Every shiver. She moved slightly, pressing closer, and Aaron could no longer tell where she ended and he began. The teasing had become something more, something urgent, yet still tender, an intimacy that wrapped around them both, delicate as a whisper yet consuming as fire. Her fingers traced along his arm, then over his shoulder, lingering, exploring, daring him to act, to surrender completely. Aaron's hands moved instinctively, cradling her waist, drawing her near. The basket was small, the space intimate, and every brush of her dress, every soft sigh that escaped her lips, made it impossible to think beyond the heat between them. You've wanted this from the beginning, Myra murmured, her lips barely grazing his jaw. I could feel it in your hesitation, in your restraint, in your need. Aaron closed his eyes, letting the truth of her words wash over him. He had tried to resist, to maintain composure, but up here, suspended above the world, there was no need. He wanted her, desired her with a hunger that matched the intensity of the sky around them. Myra tilted her head, her lips brushing his cheek, her breath warm and teasing. Then don't hold back, she whispered. I want to feel all of you, your surrender, your fire, your need. Let go with me. And so he did. Their lips met in a kiss that was gentle at first, testing, savoring, before growing deeper, more insistent. The wind carried their laughter and soft gasps, mingling with the quiet roar of the burner. Every movement was heightened by the altitude, every touch amplified by the thrill of being alone in the sky, untethered to the world below. Myra pressed herself fully against him, her hands sliding along his back, pulling him closer, while he cradled her like he never wanted to let go. Their hearts raced together, a shared rhythm that matched the gentle sway of the balloon. For a long moment, there was nothing but them, no world, no ground, no rules, just two people suspended in desire and trust, wrapped in warmth and the fading light of day. Myra's lips left his, trailing soft kisses along his jaw, down his neck, teasing him with every breath. Above the clouds, she whispered, her forehead resting against his, there's no fear. Only this, only us. Aaron held her close, his voice low, sincere. Then let's stay here forever. She laughed softly, a sound full of delight and warmth. We can't stay in the sky forever, but we can take this moment with us, always. The balloon began its gentle descent, moving closer to the ground, but the magic of the sky remained with them. Suspended between the heavens and the earth, they had crossed the line from teasing into surrender, from anticipation into intimacy. And in that suspended world, surrounded by clouds and sunlight, they discovered something greater than passion, connection, trust, and the exhilarating thrill of desire fulfilled. As the basket lowered toward the orchard below, their hands intertwined, fingers threading together naturally. Their lips met one last time in a kiss that was softer now, tender, filled with the promise of more. The height, the thrill, the danger, they had survived it together, and in doing so, they had claimed a moment that neither of them would ever forget. Above the clouds, they had fallen. And in each other, they had risen.